Dear colleagues, welcome everyone. It's 2:30 in Moscow, so we are about to start our workshop about the future of energy, new technologies and their impacts for human development. The workshop is held under the UNESCO Chair on Future Studies. This is an international network of research centers focusing on future studies, and the Human Capital Multidisciplinary Research Center. And this is a Russian network of research centers that focus on human development and human capital. We have 6 outstanding speakers today that are going to cover 3 main topics for discussion. The first one is related to more general approaches and methods that are used in future studies for the analysis of the long-term development of the energy sector. The second topic is about studies in energy inequality and how energy technologies can help overcome the existing inequalities. And the third topic is related to the human development effects of low-carbon energy technologies. So I will stop sharing the screen now and give the opportunity for our first speaker, Glenn Wright, Knowledge and Data Lead from REN21, to start his first presentation.
Good. Do you see now?
Yes, we can see it well.
Great. Sorry about that. There's always some technical issue. Yeah, so thanks very much for having me. I realized in the introduction that I'm perhaps a very spreadsheet-focused person in amongst a more sociological workshop, which is a bit of a privilege for me. So I hope that what I'll be able to do in my sort of 10, 15 minutes is to give a bit of perspective on where we are in the energy transition, frame a little bit the different perspectives around the human aspects, and then some thoughts from our side on the kind of data, storytelling, and future studies. And then hopefully I'm looking forward to learning from the rest of the speakers and the Q&A about how that relates to the more sociological aspects and the kind of future thinking. So I'll briefly tell you a bit about who REN21 is and what our sort of interest in the space is. As I say, a bit of a couple of slides on the status of the energy transition, some framing on the human aspects, and then the kind of future thinking and storytelling. So I work at the Secretariat of REN21. We're a global community of different actors, a multi-stakeholder network. We have over 4,000 members, and we kind of rely on this decentralized intelligence to build publications and other outputs that sort of take a holistic view of the energy transition and the status. We've been tracking renewables most clearly in the Renewables Global Status Report since 2005. We're sort of in a period of reflection at the moment. Last year, we broke the report into 5 different modules because, as you understand, the landscape of renewables has changed a lot in 20 years. And so we've moved from tracking capacity and targets in a very, I would say, more simplistic way to now trying to tell more narrative stories about the energy transition, the communities behind them, finance, and really starting to try and advocate through different stories. This year so far, we've released a global overview report, so I'll give a couple of slides from that. And then later in the year, we have dedicated modules looking at demand and supply, so different sectors, different methods of energy generation. Another later in the year on energy systems, so planning and societal aspects come in there. And then finally, at the end of the year on economic and social value creation, where we look more into jobs, supply chains, things like that. Earlier this year, we also released a more thematic report on renewable energy and sustainability. So some of what I will speak to here is included in this report. So I don't have time to go into a lot of detail, but I include a link there. And just to say that this report took a broad approach to looking at the different ecosystem impacts, but also potential benefits of renewable energy, materials, critical minerals, recycling, that sort of thing, and then the human aspects through energy justice. So to come to the first point, where are we with the energy transition? Are we on track? Well, the bad news is no, not really, but I think we all realize this. The good news is that we see every year a lot of momentum. And I just try to highlight here some of the more human-centric aspects that we're seeing in the previous year. So we see a number of countries now treating renewables more as important for energy security. We're seeing new strategies on industry and economy, trying to boost renewables, new trade policies. capacity increased for the 22nd year in a row. We have a record addition of capacity, so 36% on the previous year. And we're seeing a huge growth in employment as well, so 8% growth last year to reach 13.7 million. And then at the international level, we saw a kind of renewed push through COP28, a side agreement to triple renewable power capacity and double energy efficiency. What I'll try and do in this sort of framing presentation is to look at, okay, that's a global level target for capacity deployment. So that's a very high level and very general. But what does that need to mean in terms of national policies and the kind of human level of implementing such a target and reaching it? As I say, the bad news is the energy transition isn't sort of fully going ahead yet. It's clear that renewables need to be deployed, but that also fossil fuels need to be phased out and energy demand needs to be controlled. So here you can just see that over the past 10 years, renewables as a share have increased quite dramatically. So deployment is really increasing. The market is huge and sort of going ahead. But we've also seen a huge increase of the overall demand and therefore the increased use of fossil fuels. So we are still consuming more energy and burning more fossil fuels than ever. So in terms of framing the human aspects, I don't have time for a huge amount of detail, but just to sort of say we view it from two perspectives. One is that renewables need the support and acceptance of society to sort of be deployed and to take their place at the center of the energy transition. This is the graphic here. And from the other side, it's about what can renewable energy bring in terms of benefits. So trying to think beyond just the environmental aspects of climate change, but looking at the broader benefits that renewable energy could bring if appropriately implemented and regulated. So in terms of social acceptance, we tend to think of that just as the people on the ground, but actually this is a broader issue, not just for communities, but also at the socio-political level. So needing policymakers to view renewables as a central tenet and not just a sort of small alternative or side project. And so this includes things like subsidies being given to fossil fuels, whereas fewer support being given to renewables. Market acceptance. So as we'll see in some slides on finance, this includes perceptions of risks, the way that we make new business models and new financing instruments to encourage renewables and to encourage private finance. In terms of the other side of that coin, the benefits, historically renewables have been seen as a climate mitigation element or technology primarily. But what we're increasingly trying to focus on are the multiple benefits of renewables outside of that. So jobs, health benefits in terms of reduced pollution, climate mitigation, obviously energy access. I have a couple of slides just showing where we are with access and how renewables in a distributed fashion can be at the center of increased access. And then across Europe, in the past couple of years, we've seen increased interest in renewables for stability of energy supply, controlling prices when fossil fuels are exposed to external shocks and the like. In terms of what those benefits are, we know that renewables fuel economic activity by creating jobs. We see increased focus on local value chains, so trying to distribute not just the deployment of renewables, but also where the manufacturing takes place, where the recycling of minerals takes place, essentially trying to build local supply chains that can manufacture and distribute renewables, so decentralizing. In our sustainability report, we highlight that although there are some impacts with renewables, as there are for any energy source, most of the impacts can be mitigated when it comes to renewables through proper siting, inclusive energy planning, regulation, incentives, and there's a wide range of sort of good practices and policy options. As I mentioned, electricity access is improved by decentralized supply. That could be true anywhere, but in many cases in developing countries, it's not so much an energy transition as a building an energy system from the ground up, in the sense that in developed countries there may already be existing infrastructure, and so we're trying to sort of re-equip that infrastructure through renewables. But in many parts of the world where access is lacking, we actually have the opportunity to start from scratch, and so renewables are a key part of that. And we also see a lot of opportunities, especially because renewables are very flexible and diverse, for various sort of social policies to be pursued through their deployment. So creating opportunities for women, for example, local and indigenous communities. And as I say, there's lots of examples and best practices of all of these in the renewables and sustainability report. In terms of jobs, we know that renewables create a huge amount of jobs, and that a large amount will need to be created. So in terms of future thinking, this is something very dear to us. Jobs are clearly important to everyone, and not just numbers of jobs, but also looking at the quality of jobs. And we find that renewables, can be a platform to advance good quality jobs for people. I think I already mentioned that. So in terms of broadly trying to set out some perspectives that I believe others will kind of explore a bit more directly. I've just picked sort of four overarching. So one is energy justice, the other is energy access, financing the transition, and then to our interest, the data and storytelling aspect. So how do we track all this? How do we tell the stories that need to be told? And how do we bring the kind of human-centric thinking towards these new technologies and as the transition develops? In terms of justice, this is probably as academic as I can get, but I'm sure others will explore these concepts a bit more. But we have sort of distributional, recognitional, and procedural. And we see that these elements can be sort of woven into energy planning for renewables and for the transition generally. So in terms of distributional, we already know that the climate impacts of the existing system affect vulnerable populations most, and most in low emitting countries as well. And as I say, in many countries, there isn't really a transition to start. There is just a building that we need to start. And to that end, renewables can be quite flexible in promoting decentralized governance models, including local populations, having community ownership, reducing local impacts, and addressing energy poverty. In terms of recognitional justice, this refers to broadly respecting human rights, addressing the different stakeholder opinions, and not just sort of ticking the box in consultation, but actually including different communities and groups in the energy planning and in the decentralized governance. And what we find is that, with the right regulations and good practices, renewable projects can be tailored to fit quite diverse contexts and to promote economic development in lots of different ways in different contexts and regions. And then finally, procedural justice is sort of access to decision-making and how you structure this sort of planning in multi-level legal systems, which of course can impact where the resources are being used, where the energy gets put, sort of local ownership over different technologies and systems. And as I say, there's more information in the report of sort of different projects all across the world that kind of address these different aspects of energy justice. In terms of access, we've got sort of needless to say that there's a huge inequity in the deployment of renewable energy and energy access generally across the world. So very few countries at the moment have a high share of renewables in final energy consumption. So not just power, but also heating and transport and agriculture. It's important because we tend to think about power first, plugging something in and it lighting up, but actually, the transition requires us to have renewables at the heart of different activities across the world. And so you see that most of the finance and distribution of renewables are in a select few countries. These figures may now slightly be outdated, which itself highlights difficulty of some of the data collection and storytelling. It's really hard to know exactly who has access to energy and what the quality of that access was. Last year, it was estimated about 774 million people globally lacked access. The true figure may be a bit lower than that. And obviously, we see a positive trend there in the sense that over the last 20 years, it has reduced significantly. But this sort of hides a broader trend, a sort of broader issue, actually, which is that this is nowhere near fast enough to ensure access for everyone. So roughly speaking, if we wanted to reach full energy access by 2030, we need to be doing in a month what we did in a year last year. So we really need to accelerate the pace at which we provide energy access if we're going to meet these targets. Off-grid renewables in particular are key to this. We see huge growth, particularly in solar home systems, so small-scale off-grid solutions, which is great. As I said, it's very hard to track also. And we also see sort of growth in mini grid systems, so linking up smaller communities through a sort of mini grid system. We see that in half of the countries that don't yet have universal access, there are also no targets for that. So from a policy perspective, we've seen over the last 20 years that targets do matter. As governments create targets, you do see an increase in policy mechanisms, economic mechanisms to try and meet them. And so we certainly would be pushing for more policy focus in the countries where there isn't that access. But this is also a policy question for countries with access and with the resources to share, to invest in development finance, to provide capacity building and the like. So coming to the finance, there's a massive gap in investment for renewables, despite sort of year-on-year record additions to the finance pool. And we see that a very small amount of that investment is focused in developing countries, so about 17.7% if we exclude China. That's to say that for 2/3 of the global population are only getting about 17% of the overall renewables finance. And what that means is that there is just a huge gap and a huge sort of inequity in where the funding is going. So last year, for example, we saw about 623 billion last year in the investment, which is about half of the annual estimated required, according to Irina and Bloomberg New Energy Foundation. So again, that's to say that we reached half of the target for last year, which means for this year we would expect or would need all of that again. And so each year that we miss this up to 2030, it entails a huge gap that we have to make up. We know that public finance is needed to leverage private finance, and over the last 10 years, we've seen a huge growth in the use of private sector institutions to distribute development finance. So the overall amount is going up. In 2022, it was about 7.8 billion in development finance, but this still only represents about 1.4% of the total global renewable energy investment. So still a huge job for development finance and public sector institutions to do to kind of get the private sector on board and to do the sort of finance and policy things that are needed to attract investment. And aside from development finance, we have issues between the cost of capital between developed and developing countries. So the cost of capital is much, much higher in low-income countries. So in terms of future investments, it's very difficult to attract investment from private companies into projects. And again, public sector has a role to do in de-risking those projects and providing different ways for the private sector to be involved. In terms of solutions and good practices, there's a lot. In terms of jobs, you can have training programs. We see a lot of programs for reskilling fossil fuel workers into industries. The EU, for example, has a broad policy agenda for skills and jobs. For human rights, we highlight a lot of industry standards, different reporting mechanisms, civil society actions. Finance, there's a whole of different options, subsidies, feed-in tariffs, ESG criteria. They can all be kind of put to good use with flexible renewable and encourage certain kinds of investment and certain ways of making sure that there's just distribution of the benefits, and a lot of different emerging models for renewable deployment. So as-you-go models for off-grid systems, increasing in Europe. There's interest in community energy, where local communities actually own themselves and have a share in the projects on the ground. And so that's just a very brief overview of the kind of different perspectives and different solutions, and much more is contained in our reports. And then finally, just to sort of hopefully lay the ground for others, we obviously have a big interest in data collection and increasingly trying to tell the story and look to the future. We don't make projections, but we try to collect data on things that are of interest to people and that can show how renewables are developing or not developing. And so for this kind of new era where renewables are accepted as a leading solution, but we see that it's quite complex, it involves a sort of whole society transition. We have a lot of inherent data collection challenges. So we hear from all organizations that actually tracking off-grid access and energy access and things like economic benefits. It's very diffuse. And so quite a lot of difficulty in telling the story because it's not just numbers, it's people. And that we need to go beyond just raw numbers. So it's fine to say that we have X million with energy access, but what's the quality of that access? You know, how many times does that go off in a day? How reliable is it? And the same for jobs. It's not just about jobs, but are these high quality jobs that people want, that will give people the skills they need, that will be long term? And then for the overall targets, it's not just about tripling the capacity deployment, but are we doing that deployment in a sustainable way? Was it planned correctly? You know, is it future proof in terms of the overall energy system? And so for us at the moment, we're in a period of reflection. I would say we're after 20 years of reporting. You know, we realize that the landscape has shifted, and now it's more about, well, we need to tell the renewable story, you know, and situate that as part of the broader energy transition. So looking forward to hearing from everyone else and seeing what ideas we can sort of gather as to how we collate this data, who we talk to, and how we can present that to be useful to the community.
Thank you very much, Glenn, for your opening presentation. We shall have questions and answers in the end after all speakers have delivered their presentations. But meanwhile, people are very welcome to write their questions or comments in chat to this meeting. And the next speaker will be Alexey Mikheyev, head of the Scientific and Analytical Center of Melentiev Energy Systems Institute of the Russian Academy of Sciences. He also has a more general perspective on energy systems transformation. So Alexey, please. The floor is yours.
Hey, dear colleagues, don't see. Oh, I'm sorry. I don't see my presentation in.
Oh, we don't see it either yet.
Yes, I cannot. Okay.
It
Do you see,
yes, it
my
goes well.
presentation?
Yes, it goes well now.
Okay. Okay.
Yep.
Dear colleagues, I would like to present some overview on global energy transition from energy systems viewpoint. No, and you can see a title of my presentation: Energy Systems Transformation, Trends, Challenges and Effects. I present it with my authors, Sergei Podkovalnikov and Valery Stennikov. And let's go. No, at first, no, of course, as you know, I think energy transition, we consider it as a global process of transforming human society, which affects social, economic, technological, political, and environmental aspects. To ensure energy independence based on energy efficient practices, the application of convergent nature-like technologies. And general principles of energy transition is satisfy growing energy demands without causing harm to the environment, evolving energy consumption pattern to proactive behavior as new way of life for economic agent and for human at all, and high requirements for energy accessibility and quality, and of collective participation in development and management of energy resources, and the deep intellectualization of control and management of energy systems. And of note, climate reduction of greenhouse emissions to mitigate the effect of climate changes could not, в общем, therefore be associated just with the climate agenda. But we can note the reduction of greenhouse emissions is a suitable tool for the transfer of the world energy of market resources and the review of competitive energy technology in niches. В общем, we consider evolution of energy systems with structural and technological changes. From vertically subordinate structure in beginning of the 20th century to horizontal energy systems, the future energy systems which we expect in the middle of the 21st century. The future energy systems should have a evenly distributed generation of widely used energy storages, smart, adaptive, pro-consumers, smart, flexible, multi-source networks, and deep connectivity and coordination. That its main properties. As you know, global trends in energy transition framework is decentralization, digitalization, and decarbonization. It's a 3D paradigm. And it's important. Evolving trends are a consequence of technological changes. And it seems to be objective and are not subject to any market preferences. Let's go to see a transformation of energy systems in details. And of course, we divide three of main factors in previous slide. Two of many factors, such as deregulation, integration, decarbonization, intellectualization, digitalization together. Electric vehicle development and electric transport development at all. Distributed generation, storage, and active consumers. Renewable energy sources, of course. And formation of micro and nano and super grids, direct current high voltage networks, and of course innovative technology, materials, and devices. Of course, we have the growth of energy consumption, as you know, and energy demands in the world. But no good news is that we can see improving changes of structure of electricity production, for example, through or by increasing share of renewables, of course, and as previous speaker said, the same picture about 12 or 15% of we have a new renewable generation. No, but also we have a traditional hydropower and nuclear. And together we have about 60%. And also we can detect increasing share of gas generation. Of course, the implementation of renewable energy sources and other sources leads to decrease carbon intensity in electricity production. No, that we can see even in China, where we can observe decreasing carbon intensity of electricity production. But this is, I think, a relative value, but not absolute, unfortunately. And another important parameters that we can observe as characteristics of energy transition state is electricity share in final energy consumption. And we can see the main country and the world show increasing trend. And of course, the interesting characteristic is energy intensity with the global domestic product per capita. And it's also energy intensity tends to be reduced by time almost all countries in the world, and the world also.
I'm sorry, Alexei, can you start? Please try to wrap up within a couple of minutes.
Okay. Okay, we have another trend as energy system consolidation and integration, and of many projects in the world now, and the strengthening of national inter-system electrical networks is also a goal. And of course, in last decade, we can observe economies of scale effect for renewables. In the electricity generation, growth of unit capacity of new renewable power plants is a key trend, and so it seems that the renewable energy sources follow the same path as traditional sources in middle of the 20th century. And it's good news, and renewable can be compete with traditional source of more successfully. And of course, we have one more factor as the regulation of organization structures in the electricity industry, from centralization to at the formation of many electricity market with many market actors, which has its own maximization of targeted performance even by low levels actors. Of course, distributed generation development is obvious of trend, but I would like to pay your attention of micro and mini electric power grids as effective component of distributed system. They have many advantages, and I think micro and mini electric power grids changes a human consumption at all, because electricity generator owners had collaborated and built of microsystem communities, and these communities forms a new local market of energy sources, and this dramatically can change all energy systems. And of course, electricity market transformation can be illustrated by this diagram, where we have top-level generating companies and domestic distribution companies, which sell electricity to retail markets, and we have local markets where consumer and consumer generate your own energy and can interact with other markets, of other levels. Of course, we have main trend of digitalization, so-called, and digitalization can provide improved data analytics and controls to provide decarbonization, flexibility, resilience, and security, and push up overall system efficiency. It's important trend, and of course we have a large pool of advanced technology for future energy system, from energy storage, advanced technology, smart grids, and for so exotic technologies as variable power generators, Internet of Things, Internet of Energy, and so on. And my idea of my presentation is that the energy system will be transformed towards a centralized, distributed cyber-physical energy system. This system is a system that integrates digital technology-based engineering, control of market systems, as well as all participants in the energy system, business, single actors of all kinds, consumers, prosumers, will interact between them. For example, I have my own research in academic area. This picture illustrates global research for visualization related to energy at the transition. We can see research front on academic, based on academic publications, new format, and we can observe evidently main clusters which consider, of course, economic growth, energy transition, but important topics such as sector coupling, integrated energy system, smart grid, energy storage, frequency regulation, hybrid renewable energy systems, and so on. Of course, future energy system will have characteristics like this, and properties of future energy systems will be divided on structural, development, control, and management groups, and we can imagine of some quality of values about these properties. And this some summary for future energy system configurations and requirements. Modern energy systems is already tuning into intelligent complex system which seems to be transformed in future into an integrated multi-energy system like Internet of Energy, toward to global cyber-physical energy system with strong horizontal connections, not only vertical, including at the lower hierarchical level with increasing role of distributed resource and activity of consumers. What's about approach to analyze long-term development of energy systems as one of topic our workshop? Well, in our institute, we have a basic tool developed in our institute energy system of models. These models in the same paradigms like times, marker, messages, names, and so on. We have at 50 energy system of models in the world now. I have read the recent publication about it of the analyst. Common challenging issues of the energy system models is resolving time, space, and technology structure properly, balancing uncertainty and transparency. These 2 points is a standard point, and we have some improvements of last years in this, and we can to forecast a configuration of energy system about in our time resolution and some problems. But short issues addressing the growing complexity of the energy systems is more actual, I think, and fourth, related to the main topic of our workshop, integrated human behavior, social risk and opportunities, is now we don't deal with this issue in our institute, but maybe in future and in collaboration with another scientific groups. And what we can do now, for example, now we develop, of course, new models and new systems, but now, for example, we will try to develop multi-level energy system meta model, including at the 4 levels. At the first of them, for example, simple energy system level, as usual. Second level is network expansion and network, electrical grid network planning. And third level is reliability analysis of new future system based on different energy sources. And this level 4 operational. This level provides some technical feasibility of new system of what we will investigate. Of course, a new energy system with a large share of renewables require stochastic models and methods to take into account the nature of variable nature of renewable sources, and maybe we can take into account human factors and the policy factors, for example. Of course, one of important problem, I think, for energy system modeling for long-term development analysis is we need to a good approach to aggregate, process, and decompose information flows between levels, because it's very difficult and information is often is not coordinated, is not valid when passed from one level to another, and to harmonize overall solutions at each level and overall solution. Of course, input data and output results also should be processed. And of course, we need maybe some automatic and semi-automatic with artificial intelligence support assessment of method to evaluate possible impacts and effects of new future energy system. We can see to use a cognitive dynamic modeling and intelligent visual analysis. One of some kind of holistic approaches. Okay, thank you for attention.
Thank you very much, Alexei. This was very interesting, but
Yes.
unfortunately, a very long time it took. So we are a bit running out of time. Yes, but very interesting. Thank you very much. So I will give the floor now to our next speaker, Muhammad Asif, a professor from King Fahd University of Petroleum and Minerals in Saudi Arabia. So Alexei, can you please stop sharing so Asif can share his screen?
Sorry.
Thank you.
Okay. Right. Okay. Okay. I'm sorry.
Hello, good afternoon, Liliana and esteemed speakers and participants. The title of my talk is A Shared Energy Transition, and the key points include energy transition, the concept and drivers, the technological dimensions of the energy transition, the main prospects and challenges, and then I will have some concluding remarks. So if we look at the energy transition, this is not the first time we have witnessed energy transition. Probably the first energy transition was a shift from biomass to coal in the 18th century, which triggered the Industrial Revolution. And then the second transition was shifting from coal to oil and gas in the last century. And now we are witnessing the third energy transition, which is a shift away from fossil fuel-based energy systems to those energy systems which are environmentally clean, environmentally friendly. And this is what the United Nations is asking for, to become zero carbon or carbon neutral by the middle of this century. Now, the first two energy transitions have been largely driven by the pursuit for more efficient fuels and which are cheaper and logistically easy to handle. But this energy transition is primarily being driven by the fight against climate change. So if you look at the major drivers of this energy transition, it is the rapid growth in global energy demand, then the fossil fuel reserves, which are supplying still 81% of the total primary energy. They are the conventional, at least the conventional resources, they are fast depleting. Then the energy prices are rising worldwide, pushing millions of people below the poverty line every year. And we see all sorts of issues around energy insecurity. Then there is a huge issue of energy deprivation, which is actually one of the key points of my talk. And finally, and above all, is climate change. Now, if you look at the growth in energy demand, this is what the IEA predicts. In the 40 years, from 2010 to 2050, the global energy demand is set to increase by more than 100%. And this demand is primarily going to come from the developing regions. Now, we need to have resources. We need to have fuels to satisfy this energy demand. And I said earlier, the conventional fossil fuel supplies, they are depleting. So it's a huge challenge how to meet this escalating energy demand. And then we are faced with climate change, which is arguably the biggest threat facing the mankind, and which is already showing us implications like melting of glaciers and the sea level rise. Flooding has become very frequent around the world and more intense. And then we see the storms again, which are becoming more powerful, more destructive. Wildfires, a few years ago, when we think of wildfires, it's only Australia or North America that comes to our mind. But now even the Europe is being hit by wildfires. For the last few years, the Mediterranean countries like Greece and Turkey and Portugal and Spain, they are facing severe wildfires every year. And droughts, we have only less than 3% of the water available to us, which is consumable, and even those few freshwater reserves, they are fast depleting. Then it's all also contributing to the global food crisis. Now, a serious issue is energy deprivation. The World Bank and the UN says about 800 million people lack access to electricity. But if we look at the actual definitions of electrification, there's a lot of politics in it. And the actual number of people lacking electricity is much more. And if we consider the reliability issues with the grid, because in developing countries, even the major metropolitan and capital cities, they don't have electricity for 12 hours a day. So if you consider that, then the actual number of people severely lacking electricity access is easily multi-billion. And then, according to UN, about 2.5 billion people lack access to clean cooking fuels. So now we are witnessing, on one hand, massive and arguably appreciable growth in renewables. But on the other hand, we are still seeing 2.5 billion people living on the traditional biomass, which our ancestors lived on thousands of years ago. So on one hand, we see the EVs overtaking the conventional sales of electrical vehicles. And then on the other hand, we see still these people struggling to have heat in their stoves. So this is a contrasting picture. But if we are really after the essence of energy transition, which is to become zero carbon, then it has to be a shared transition. It cannot be have this kind of disparity and segregation. So what are the key deliverables? As our esteemed speakers before me, they said the future energy system, they have to meet, they should be good enough to meet the growing energy demand, and they should provide access to reliable and refined energy sources to everybody. And they should support the socioeconomic advancements. And finally, they should be supporting the environment. So the global energy system need to be more flexible, more diverse, affordable, efficient, and cleaner. Now, if you look at the energy transition technologically, there are four main dimensions: decarbonization, distributed generation, digitalization, and decreasing use of energy. Now, in terms of decarbonization, we are seriously counting on renewable energy. And then obviously when you are going for renewables, you have to have energy storage, then hydrogen and fuel cells, electric mobility, decarbonization in the fossil fuel sector itself, for example, through carbon capture and storage. And then if we see the last COP, it's talking about phasing out. And probably more realistically, we can only talk of phase down, because the phase out, at least in the foreseeable future, it doesn't look to be practical and realistic. And then nuclear fusion, which is at the relatively early stage of advancements. So decentralized generation is the next big and important thing after decarbonization now. And thankfully, it is being paralleled by the renewables revolution. Now, imagine those 1 billion people don't have access to electricity and 2.5 billion people don't have access to clean cooking. They can only be helped by distributed generation, because the conventional electric and gas grids, they're not really able to penetrate and reach to those communities. It's only the renewable, it's only the distributed generation which can help them. And then we are living in a digital age where we are having smart meters and smart grids, and then they are generating trillions of data sets, data points every day, which needs to be carefully analyzed and looked into, which is not humanly possible. And then we need smart algorithms through AI and machine learning and so on. And then robotics are helping us on every front, from the design, development, erection, the asset management, maintenance, and then obviously blockchain. And finally, now we are in an age where cybersecurity has become a really big challenge, and the utilities and the energy companies around the world, they are being compromised by the cyber attacks. Not many of them, unfortunately, get reported. So these are the real important dimensions of the energy transition. And then finally, energy efficiency. We cannot really go on just by adding the generation capacity to satisfy the growing demand. There have to be brakes applied, and our attitudes, our behaviors, our lifestyle, they have to be changed. So they say, as IEA says, the first fuel in the energy transition is energy efficiency, is energy saving. Now, what are the challenges for energy transition? My last two slides. For the developed nations, the investment, these renewable technologies, they are capital intensive, and obviously they are having a disruptive nature, which is not really appreciated all the time. So the policy support needs to be improved. The infrastructure development needs to be improved. For example, a couple of weeks ago, there was a report that Britain needs to invest about 65 billion pounds to support the emerging offshore wind power projects. Then the inter-stakeholder alignment is still an issue. Now, the developing nations, they face all these challenges, but on top of that, they don't have really the finances like the developed countries to go for renewables and other low carbon technologies. And the policy support mechanism is even much weaker in the developing nations. The infrastructure is much weaker. And above that, the access to energy is a big problem. And energy affordability is even a bigger problem. So these are real challenges that energy transition faces in the developed and the developing nations. So with that, I conclude. Climate change is a globally integrated challenge. And billions of people in developing countries, they lack access to refined, reliable, and affordable energy. And the world is witnessing third energy transition, which has four main dimensions: decarbonization, decentralization, digitalization, and decreasing use of energy. And not all technologies we are counting on in this energy transition, they are techno-economically mature. For example, hydrogen, carbon capture and storage. Localized socioeconomic inequalities around the world, they are a major concern. And the world needs a just energy transition, ensuring energy and environmental prosperity for everybody. And finally, the planet is a global village, and it has to have a shared future for the developed as well as the developing nations. So with that, I conclude, and I thank you very much for your time and attention.
Thank you very much, Asif, for sharing your thoughts, which I think resonate very much with the previous speakers. So we all are on the same wave, so to say. So I will now ask Igor Makarov, head of the School of the World Economy from the HSE University, to share with us his ideas about the human development effects of low carbon energy technologies.
Thank you, Liliana. Do you hear me well?
Yes, we can hear you well.
Yeah, great. I'm trying to share my slides. Hope you see it now. My presentation, I mean. Great. So my presentation will be called the key effects of low carbon energy technologies on human capital, and it is prepared by me jointly with my colleague Matvey Chistikov. So what is the idea of this presentation of this subject of the analysis? Low carbon technologies, of course, they first of all help to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, to mitigate climate change, and of course it has huge effects on different aspects of the global economy, the different aspects of human development in the very long term. At the same time, implementation of low carbon technologies has strong distributional effects, and it also affects inequality between and within countries, and it is widely discussed within the concept of just energy transition.
I'm sorry, Igor, but the slides are not changing. Did you mean already to change to the second slide? And maybe you can do the full screen mode as well. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll try probably to share the full screen. Just like that. Yeah, now you see slides changing. Great. So, these effects of low carbon technologies are widely discussed in literature, and tons of literature are devoted to this subject. My presentation is not about this. My presentation is about the effects of low carbon technologies on different aspects of human development in a short term, which is also, of course, discussed in literature, and my presentation will be based on the analysis provided in many different sources. But I think that this topic is less widely discussed within the concept of energy transition, within the debates about energy transition, than the long-term concepts, the long-term effects of these processes. So in our analysis, we use the term human potential. Human potential is not the same as human capital, though there are a lot of similarities. Both human capital and human potential refer to the set of inherent characteristics, abilities, knowledge, and skills of people. But human capital, as any capital, is something which is used in economic activity. Any capital is something that is used to produce goods and services. Human potential is not only about economic activities. It is like a result of human development. It includes different aspects related to quality of life. It refers to different aspects related to health, skills, and knowledge of people, as not for production of anything, but which has some intrinsic value and which is a result of human development. And human potential has three different dimensions. So we may say that there is physical human potential, which is physical health, life expectancy, some other physical characteristics of an individual. Social human potential, social and political activity of a person with social responsibility, absence of deviant behavior, and so on. And intellectual human potential, which refers to education, skills, knowledge, abilities to learn, and so on. So in my presentation, I would show the effects of low carbon technologies on each of these three dimensions of human potential. First of all, the effects on physical human potential. The effects of low carbon technologies on physical human potential, it may be like divided into two parts, into two most significant aspects. First of all, low carbon technologies, they usually improve the atmospheric air quality. So they reduce not only greenhouse gases, but they also reduce different other pollutants. And these other pollutants, they have negative effects on human health. That's why low carbon technologies, they have positive effects on human health, even in the short term. There are some estimates which you may see on the slides, based both on the global experience, like according to the UN estimates, high concentration of particulate matters and NO2 due to fossil fuel combustion leads to the costs for health and the economy equal to $2.9 trillion per year. It is a huge sum of money, and low carbon technologies, they help to reduce at least partly these huge costs. Like there are also many examples of positive influence of different low carbon technologies on human health based on the examples of separate countries. For example, in China, you may see some estimates of these positive effects. On the other hand, low carbon technologies may have positive effects on the quality of life, quality of living conditions, for example, through green buildings. Green buildings are good not only because they reduce greenhouse gas emissions, but because they improve indoor air quality, water and ventilation systems. They help more efficiently regulate temperature and humidity control, improve lighting quality, and so on and so forth. And all this has also effects on human health and on physical human potential. For example, there are some estimates that living in green buildings improves residents' health by 8%. Mortality rates are 19% lower in healthcare organizations built with energy efficient technologies, and so on and so forth. At the same time, there are some effects of low carbon technologies on social human capital, the second dimension. Low carbon technologies, they provide the huge impetus to the increase of social responsibility of people, to prioritization of environmental protection goals, to participation of people in environmental public campaigns and organizations. And at the same time, this increase in social responsibilities, it creates impetus to the green energy technologies adoption. So we have strong positive feedback here, and this strong positive feedback is important for fostering energy transition itself. At the same time, we have a very important concept of mental health, and low carbon technologies may also have positive effects for mental health as well. And there are some papers which try to measure this effect, and they show that it may be significant. There are also positive effects of low carbon technologies on intellectual human potential. So as was already said in the first presentation today, is that low carbon technologies create jobs, and these jobs are usually high-skilled jobs, and so these high-skilled jobs, they also increase the demand for education. For example, they create some new segment of so-called green skills. And the development of these green skills, the education which is demanded, which is required for low carbon technologies, they improve the intellectual human capital as well. So there are some like a summarizing table which I won't repeat once again. So this shows some effects of different aspects of low carbon technologies on three dimensions of human potential. And I want to conclude with some recommendations for further research. I think that these aspects of low carbon technologies, which I tried to summarize in my short presentation, they shouldn't be ignored in the analysis of the prospects of energy transition. There is a huge gap in research here. There is much less literature about the short-term effect of low carbon transition on different aspects of human potential compared to the effect of low carbon transition on greenhouse gas emissions, on climate change, and so on the effects of climate change, which is quite logical because, of course, low carbon transition first of all is needed to mitigate climate change. But however, taking into account this short-term effects is important for fostering low carbon transition to provide the new argument in favor of that. And to take into account some feedbacks, usually positive feedbacks that may be important for like practical implementation of policies for low carbon policies all over the world. And at the same time, there are also some practical implications of like studies like that. Yeah, for example, interdisciplinary research aims at to study these aspects of the effects of low carbon technologies on physical human potential, for example, is needed for the efficient allocation of energy facilities, including renewable energy facilities, taking into account the potential effect on human health, on potential effects of air quality, and so on and so forth. This is what I wanted to present, and thanks for your attention.
Thank you very much, Igor. Taking from what you said about the interdisciplinary nature of this subject, the energy systems and their transformation are closely linked with environmental systems and agricultural systems and the water systems, and they create the so-called nexus effect. And therefore, our next speaker, Cristiano da Cunha, a representative from the University of Campinas in Brazil, is going to touch exactly this nexus effect with the example of his studies. So please, Professor, the floor is yours.
Now, can you see my screen?
Yes, we can see it. Please.
Oh, yeah,
No.
my micro was off. Oh,
Okay.
Thank you so much. Okay. Well, first of all, it's an honor to be here, and I'm going to present my work about the adoption of new technology. Wait a minute. Yeah, new technology here in Brazil with sustainable development. Here's my background, my academic background. Here's my professional experience. And here we're gonna say that is the topic that I'm gonna cover today. Well, first of all, is the adoption of new technology to experience in Brazil and some conclusions. Well, first of all, I'm gonna use a marketing approach because I work with more than 30 years in a marketing here in Brazil. So I'm going to use a marketing approach to analyze, to research about the adoption of new technology. So for me, the farmer, it's a consumer that use the technology. So I'm going to use the theories of consumer behavior. Well, first example, I'm going to do just two examples here in Brazil. First is the payment for an environmental service. And second, it's the Regenera Cerrado project that I'm going to explain in a few minutes. Well, first of all, I'm going to say about the payment for environmental service. This change starts in US in 1985. So it's an economic incentive to do environmental and sustainable practice. And why we use this? Well, unfortunately, this paper is still in Portuguese, but we're gonna translate this in a few days for English. So after I can give access to this paper. So we did a research using three kind of types of payment, environmental payment, that we call protection, use, and value. And we did estimation about with the geospatial data, how these three types of payment for environmental service affect the area that we recover on degradation area here in Brazil. So we can see that two of them, we have three, two of them have a significant estimative. Well, you can say, oh, professor, it's similar. No, it's not similar. We can see that it's a huge area, and this little difference make a huge difference when we estimate some simulation here in Brazil. So, for example, if we have no investment at all, we can recover this degradation area because it's a biological area in almost 1 hectare, almost 1 soccer stadium, 1 Maracanã, for example. But if we change for one type, the protection investment, we can improve almost 7 times this control, this base area. If we do 50-50, we can improve almost 8 times this base area. And if we use this use area, this use type of the payment, we increase almost 9 times plus the base area. So we know from this study to this research that we have a better way to do this payment, that is the use way. So we did some simulations that we are here, the recovery of degraded area in hectares. So we have no, in the left, we have no investment, and in the right, we have the investment, the total investment of 200,000 reais. It's almost $50,000, more or less. So we can say if in protection, we use all this in protection, we have almost 47 hectares recover. And if we use this 100% in the use type, we can increase almost 82 hectares of this area, this recovered degraded area. That is almost 82 soccer stadium. That is almost 82 Maracanãs. For example, if you see, it's the area. So as I said before, in the simulation, we can see, oh, it's just a few difference. It's just a few difference. But when we say in the simulation, it's a huge difference in the area that we can just improve using the investment that we do in the payment environment payment. So in the conclusion, we have a better way to do this, to encourage the sustainable and environmental practice, that is the payment of sustainable environmental service, just like the kind use. And we know that we have this kind of improvement in 82 hectares, a great area here to recover for not a big investment, that it's a middle investment in this form of payment of environmental service. So we're gonna see a second example, that is Regenera Cerrado project. That is, what is Cerrado? Cerrado, it's our Brazilian savanna. So I'm not gonna read this for the time. And here is our project. Here is the organization that we are working to do this Regenera Cerrado. That is, as I said before, it's Embrapa, it's our agriculture research center, the most important here in Brazil, and several universities, which is University of Campinas, where I am professor in a master in a PhD program, and Cargill is just helping us to do this project. So here is our goal, some photos. I'm gonna just and we have the ODS. We're gonna get 9 from 17 ODS. So we want to achieve the ODS 2, 3, 6, 7, 8, 11, 12, 13, 14, and 16. So we have to we try to achieve 9 ODS here with this project. So we have this research in 2 stages. The first stage was a qualitative study. In a second stage was a quantitative study. In a qualitative study, we just ask what are the motivation and the barriers to adopt a new technology, more specifically the regenerative agriculture. Well, here is the paper that we did with one of my PhD students that is here. I thank you. I thank Ricardo for being here in this presentation. And here is when we say adoption, what are the most important concepts that the farmers just tell me that, okay, when you say adoption, what you need to do this adoption, the first thing is knowledge, and the second most important was the long-term vision. So for the time, I'm not going to present all that, but just the two principles. When you say motivation, which is your motivation to adopt this new technology? Almost 70% just say it's the cost benefits ratio. So it's the most important motivation in this adoption. And when you say, okay, you're gonna decide this right now, what you need? Okay, I need the influencers and the people that are reference. They are using, why they are using? Oh, I'm gonna see these people and I'm gonna use this just like a reference here in Brazil. Okay, and after that, we go to the second stage, which is a quantitative study. We submit to a Brazilian event here in Ampage, and we did a logit with logit that use you adopt or not. What is the main factors that affect this adoption? We did all the motivation, and here we bring some just one regression that we can see that the most important factor that affects this adoption is the fact that the farmer is family, it's a family one or not. So we can see, as you can see that, okay, you can see that the probability that is in the start 50-50 is gonna change. I'm gonna show you in a couple of minutes, in a couple of seconds, okay? But that's gonna change for 50-50 to 98% and 2%. Well, just like conclusion, in the first stage, we just find the more important concepts in adoption and the cost benefits ratio. And it's backwards. Sorry, it's backwards. In motivation, it's in adoption is knowledge in long-term vision, and in motivation is cost benefit ratio. And in terms of decision, we need to have some influencer and reference people. And yeah, just like I said, we did this research to improve the concept, to get the adoption, I get the understanding of adoption of this new technology, in Brazil. And in the second stage, we know that the most important attribute to this adoption is be a farmer that has a family working in this farm or not. So we need this, and we did this for change. Just like I said before, we changed the start initial, the situation, the initial situation from 50-50 change using or not using for 98% using, 2% not using. If you are not a family farmer, if you are a small farm, a medium farm, or a large farm, so you have actually in this data 98% of using this new technology. So our conclusion is we need to encourage not family farmer to adopt more this technology and reduce the barriers for family farmers to adopt this technology. So we know from another paper that I did present here that it's the main barrier here in Brazil is a technical assistant. Well, here's the reference that I use. Here is my contacts. If you need anything, just let me know. Here is the QR code in my email. Here's my research lab here in Brazil, the agronegócio, it's agribusiness lab. And here is some photos. Here's the lab of marketing. And thank you for attention. And if you need anything, just let me know. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Cristiano. Indeed, it is very important that people feel comfortable and are willing to adopt the new green technologies, both in the energy sector, but also in the other adjacent sector that form this energy, food, water nexus. It is likewise very important that these technologies are affordable to the global community as a whole, but also and first and foremost to the low-income countries and to low-income families. in different countries. So to understand how affordable the low carbon energy technologies are, we need to dive more deeply into the energy economics methods that are used in future energy studies. And for this, I would like to give the floor to Nurcan Kilinkata. She works in the Al-Kazimiya University, but she is also a senior researcher at HSE University. So please, Nurcan, the floor is yours.
Yes, thank you so much, Liliana. Actually, thank you so much for invitation this workshop, because I am appreciated for giving me the opportunity to talk about in the field of the energy technologies, and also I am happy to see familiar people participating today. And actually, previous me all speakers talk about the workshop main topics, and now just on I would like to summarize of the this main topic. Since the Kyoto Protocol enacted in 1990, countries have been seeking to reduce the greenhouse gas emissions. In December 2015, during the COP21, the Paris Agreement was signed, and which this Paris Agreement, which renewed this effort and set more aggressive goals, the limit global warming to less than 2 centigrade. And actually for this goal rises the several issues and challenges. So what have we done in the world, and what can we expect for the future? Today we have to understand this challenge, and one of this challenge, and also in my opinion the most important one, is energy technologies. Actually also in these workshops include the 3 main topics. In the evaluation of the energy technologies, of course we are applied some kinds of the approach and methods. Actually, since I have an economics background, and first I would like to talk about the quantitative analysis method used in the field of the energy technologies. Actually, for the first topic of the workshops, I would like to share the one PPT with you, but I would like to summarize of the this one with you. Files, this one. Yes, share. Actually, of course, as a economics people applied to some kinds of the quantitative methods. These methods, quantitative methods, important tool in the energy economics, and because they provide as a systematic and objective approach to analyzing of the energy-related data and problems. Actually, when we look at these methods, some of methods are more important to analyzing of the energy technologies. The first one is the econometric modeling, the second one is the cost benefit analysis, the third one is the input output analysis, another one is life cycle analysis, and optimization modeling. Actually, of course there is a more detail about in this modeling, and also I would like to give the example in this slides, and if you would like to request to see my this PPT, of course I can share with you, but now just only I would like to talk about as a general. And quantitative methods are used to combination with other qualitative methods, such as policy analysis and stakeholder engagement, to provide the comprehensive and multidisciplinary approach to energy technologies. Actually, in the future and also at the present, other methods and approach, such as machine learning, artificial intelligence, and blockchain, and maybe big data, should be applied to analysis of the energy technologies. The analysis of the energy technologies is going to depend on these most recent technological methods. As an economist, I believe that more interdisciplinary research in the field of the energy technologies would be more effective. Actually, also some of speakers mention of the digitalization, and for the digitalization, of course, at the present, when we hear the digitalization, we have to think about the machine learning, artificial intelligence, and blockchain. And digitalization and advanced level technology has the incredible ability to consistently improve while the reducing of the cost. Actually, the digitalization technology now and in the future will be leading factor in ensuring the global moves for 100% sustainable energy system. Actually, this software as well as hardware plays very important role in forecasting future weather conditions, improving of the distribution. Actually, maybe this is the directly related with the grid distribution, and analyzing of the data. Digital base of the technology plays much bigger role in renewable energy than just the hardware we use. Actually, of course, in this slide, I talk about these quantitative methods, but we have to use these methods by using the digitalization based software, digitalization based data. Actually, for the second point of the in this workshops, energy equality. Actually, the energy transition technology is just not only technical transition. Actually, it is the social, it is the political, it is the economic transition linked with the equity. Actually, in other words, another important issue in the planning and expansion of the energy technologies is energy equality. Actually, what is the energy equality? This is a very important concept, but this concept not familiar to everyone. And energy equity refers all individuals having an equal opportunity to access the energy services and technologies that they requested to meet their needs. Actually, there are the significant equity implications at the present. Actually, these implications need to be considered in energy transition planning, and unequal adaptation of the resources like solar PV, electric bicycles, challenge with the energy affordability or job losses in the fossil fuel industry, and inequality of the health cost and benefits also among the others. Actually, if we fail to recognize and mitigate inequity along the way, the transition technology could actually increase the inequality. Also, energy equity appears as a concept, but the potential of the potential to motivate of the energy policies that aims to reduce carbon emissions and achieve higher level of the distributional equity. But distributional policies are well known to be difficult, frequently stimulate of the discussion over the potential of the affecting how things are allocated on the free market in the capitalist economies. And depending on how well they are received by society, and energy equity policies may or may not be deemed effective and enforceable. Actually, at the present, I am working a paper with my US colleague. For that paper, we are using the survey data. Actually, according to some survey in some American regions, people who are poor area people, but they accept of advantage of the clean energy use, and so if they accept the clean energy use, they would like to use the credit opportunities and to purchase of the clean energy based home technologies. Actually, some of the survey did in the rich area in US, and actually these rich people don't care about the importance of the clean energy, so they don't use these kinds of the technologies at all. Actually, maybe in this point we have to mention of course adaptability and acceptability is very important to reduce of the inequity. Energy equality actually, of course, directly significant in light of the decarbonization process, but making sure that new achieving and greatest possible of the advantage from the low carbon technologies is main goal for advocates of the energy equity. Actually, of course, there are some kinds of the challenging to achieve of the energy equity, specifically for this challenging directly related with the developing and underdeveloping countries. Previously, some speakers talk about these challenges, and just I don't want to repeat again at the present. Actually, for the last point of this workshops, what is the key human development effect of the low carbon energy technologies? Actually, for the many research, when we look at the many papers and also many research fundings, indicated that the utilization of the low carbon energy technologies could potentially promote human development, and the main positive effects of the low carbon technologies are pollution reduction, improve the air quality, lower fossil fuel prices, and increase the job opportunities compared of the fossil fuels. And also, of course, we know there are some kinds of the advantage if you use the clean based energy technologies. For example, solar PV. This solar PV is PV is 1% of the renewable. They have zero carbon emission. They are silent running and proven reliability, and also solar can interface with the hybrid technology to reduce of the generator runtimes and full consumption. Actually, in the end of what makes low carbon technology significant? Actually, for the reason of this question, extremely critical, because the first one, these kinds of the technologies help fighting the climate change by lowering of the carbon emission. The second, these kinds of the technologies create of the exciting job opportunities in the field of the renewable and sustainable construction. The last one, countries and companies would like to invest these kinds of the technologies are likely more competitive and innovative in rapidly changing of the world. Actually, in a short, low carbon technologies are important a sustainable future. By investing of these technologies, maybe we can make the real differences in fighting against of the climate change, create the new job opportunities, and stay ahead of the game in rapidly changing of the world. And developing low carbon technologies is smart move and leaves a clean world for the future generation. Actually, thank you so much for your attention. If you have any question, feel free to ask.
Thank you very much, Nurcan. We are running a bit late, so we don't have two of our speakers with us. So Glenn and Asif unfortunately had to leave. But if the participants have questions to the other speakers, they might ask. Does anybody have a question or a comment? If nobody, then I thank you very much for the comments you put in chat, and I see some of the speakers have already answered them. And you can also contact the speakers directly, of course, as they share their contacts in the presentation. I think it would be a very good outcome of our workshop. Otherwise, you can contact the organizers and we can pass on your questions to the speakers. Thank you very much for your patience and for your active listening. And thank you very much to the speakers for their presentation and their time. And I see you at our next event in the Higher School of Economics. Thank you very much.
Hey, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Have a good afternoon.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.